Hey everybody, this is another edition of Ask Tommy. Question came in from the community. I'm on antidepressants. Can I have a spiritual experience like they talk about in recovery programs? I mean, wow, what a question. Thank you so much for that question. And it's going to bring up a pretty important conversation about antidepressants. And yeah, just so important. So different people need different things at different times. We have got to find compassion and understanding of this idea. I know people that don't have a fighting chance to stay sober, or a fighting chance to get out of bed for that matter, without antidepressants, without some kind of chemical assistance to help them along. I know people who have been on antidepressants for a long time who would like to try to get off. I know people who have been on antidepressants for a long time who don't feel like it's a good idea for them to get off. I know people that have been on antidepressants for a very short period of time and they've found positive effects, and I know people who have found negative effects. I mean, if you speak to 10,000 people that have been on antidepressants, you're going to get 10,000 personal experiences about what those experiences were for those people. So there's no one answer of, is this right for me? I've known people to go off of antidepressants without medical support, without even medical advice, and it hasn't gone well for them. I've known people to consult their physician for real, work with a sponsor, other people from their recovery program, work with a nutritionist, work with other coaches to help them get off antidepressants. And some of them it's gone really well. And some of them determined, you know what, this is something I think I need in this life, at least for right now. Every person should have the right to decide for themselves what they need in order to make life possible and enjoyable and yeah, for them. So one of the challenging things I notice is that in a lot of programs, people who are not doctors and not even therapists or psychiatrists are really telling other people how they ought to be, or what they ought to do or not ought to do. And it doesn't seem fair, and it doesn't seem correct to do that. I think we're all aware that there is an overuse and overdependence upon antidepressants and other medications in this country and in the world. There's no question that there's overprescription of drugs by doctors. And even knowing this, we still have to take a step back and we have to look at each person on a case-by-case basis. And we really don't have a right to comment about someone else's choices unless they ask us. And if you're fortunate enough to be in a position where somebody comes to ask you for help, here's what I sort of say. And many people have come to me and said, can I ask you about antidepressants? I kind of want to get off of these things, but I'm not sure if it's the right thing or how to do it. And what I'll say is, well, first of all, let's work with your medical doctor and let's bring that person into the equation right away, right? So I'm not a doctor and I don't understand the effects, the exact effects, the way these things work on the body and the brain and the endocrine system. And I certainly don't understand the consequences of coming down off a dosage of any of these dozens of drugs. So I'm going to be far out of that conversation. So we bring a medical professional into it. Then we have that discussion. What led you in the first place to get onto these drugs? What was the purpose? How has it worked for you? What has your experience been? Let's become explorers, scientists of our own experience. That's the most important thing. So I would point you to your experience. What has worked for you? What hasn't worked for you? Okay. Now I know that diet is a very important part of our reality. And I know that in my own life, I've been able to make myself feel better, and I've been able to make myself feel sick based upon my own diet choices. So I have a sneaking suspicion that diet is going to be a very important consideration for people who deal with depression or any other mental health disorder, including substance use disorder. So let's take a look at your diet. Let's improve your diet. Let's make sure you're hydrated. Let's make sure you're getting the minerals and the vitamins and the enzymes and the proteins and all of the complex amino acid chains and everything that your body needs to do really well. Let's bring that into your life. And so that's going to be, first of all, an enjoyable process because it feels good to nourish yourself. That's an act of self-love. And even if you stayed on antidepressants but you improved your diet, I think your life is going to improve right there. Let's take a look at your relationships. Are there challenging relationships in your life at the primal level, the familial level, your romantic level, your friendship level, your colleague and job life? How's that all going? We look at our life to find the answers to the main questions, which would be the reasons why we got onto antidepressants in the first place. What's wrong? What seems to be bothering me? Is it psychological, physical, emotional, spiritual, dietary? What's going on? So we look at the whole individual. And going through that process, if nothing else, guess what you're having? A spiritual experience. Just asking those questions. Just looking at your own life. Just connecting with your body at a deeper level. Just looking at the way that your interaction with the world affects you. You're in the middle of a spiritual experience. Can you have a spiritual experience and be on antidepressants? Of course you can. If you are a religious person or a spiritual person and you believe in the idea of God or the infinite or the universe or great spirit or higher power, whatever that is, if you believe in that, do you really believe that because you take antidepressants, which by the way, if you need them, is really an act of self-love unto itself, you think the divine, higher power, great spirit can't reach you? Really? You think that's a limitation to your higher power to get through just because you're involved in the act of self-love of taking care of yourself? I can assure you that is not the case. If you're not a religious or spiritual person and you don't believe in the concept of God or divine or any of that, look at it like this. Do you not think that by taking a substance that you may need to bring a balance and a possibility to your life that might not be available to you otherwise, that has to be okay? And you know what? It's okay until it isn't okay. And if it isn't okay, then those thoughts start to come. Maybe I can shift. Maybe I need to inquire deeper with my physician, my recovery team, my health team, the people around me, my friends and family, trying to figure out if maybe I need to shift in some way. Maybe it's time for me to come up with a plan where I could experiment with even going down in a dosage. Or maybe it's time for me to move off of antidepressants with my doctor's support and guidance along the way. Maybe I can shift my diet and see how that feels, and maybe I'm getting involved in a cardiovascular routine of hiking or biking or maybe I'm getting out in nature more and I'm starting to feel so good that I'd like to see what it's like to bring a little bit of a shift. Those kinds of explorations, when done responsibly, first, as I said, with the support of a medical doctor and hopefully healers and other wise people that are around you, who even knows what doors that kind of inquiry can unlock for you? I encourage that process, that grabbing of life. I have absolute responsibility for my own life. And if I need to take antidepressants because I feel that's what's right for me today, I'll tell you what, I'm going to get around other people that understand, that get it, and that support me in that decision for that time period in my life. And if the thoughts start to come to me that maybe I need to shift this, those people will be around me and I'll be able to have that conversation and explore that when and if the time comes. There's nothing separating any of us from each other or from the divine. When it's time to let go of something, you'll know it. And then you come up with a plan to do it. If that time doesn't come, then you have to be in this place of acceptance that maybe this is the way you're supposed to be in your life, and it's okay. But as long as you're truly honest with yourself, you'll be led to the next right place. And the whole thing is an absolute spiritual wild trip. And I wish it for you at every turn. Never stop exploring. And really, if you're doing something that's good for you today, gives you a fighting chance, please be kind to yourself. Find compassion. See you on down the road.